construction inspection for this this next phase to the south. With that, I'll answer any questions with that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on this item?
No questions.
Okay. Can we get a motion on it?
Move to approve resolution number 7244.
Second.
Okay. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you,
Tom.
guys.
All right, Linda, if you'll read F4 and F5 together.
Resolution 7245, authorizing execution of a development agreement between the City of Sherman and Three Oaks Development and Construction Company for the construction of infrastructure improvements and the conveyance to Sherman of a 22.48 acre tract of land located in the 2400 to 2500 blocks of Southeast Street. Resolution 7246, awarding a bid to Three Oaks Development and Construction Company for the conveyance of approximately 12 acres of city-owned land generally located in the 2400 to 2500 blocks of Southeast Street, authorizing execution of necessary transaction documents related thereto.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Rob?
Yeah, I'm excited about this item. This is a good one. This is something that we've been working on for about a year. In April, City Council authorized staff to bid land, 12 acres of land on just off East Street, which is the area highlighted in green. We posted that sale of land in the proper bidding process in October. We received 2 bids, and the bid from Three Oaks Development had their offer to the city for that 12 acres of land was the conveyance of the 22 acres of land highlighted in the orange, along with 3,000 linear feet of a 10-foot wide hike and bike trail that would be in that area, a 48 space parking lot, grading improvements, and the conveyance of that land. That's part of the developer agreement that's in agenda item F4, and agenda item F5 is the awarding of the bid to Three Oaks Development. There is a condition, so this is essentially a land swap, and with some gravy on it, where the developer is committed to doing a number of infrastructure items for a future park at that location. So this is essentially a land swap for what we've been referring to as Shark Tooth Park. The agreement also has in place that if the developer doesn't do what he said he was going to do within 5 years, the city could construct these things and require the property that's developing on the green area to pay for those improvements at inflated costs as well, whenever that would occur. The agreement is also conditional that no building permits will be issued in the green area until those improvements are in place. So excited about that, excited about Shark Tooth Park, and staff would recommend approving both of those items.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Council, any questions, discussion about the land?
Sounds like it's a win-win right there. Mm-hmm. Move to approve resolution 7245. Can we do them both together?
Yes.
7245 and 7246.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Council, we'll move right along to G1. Linda, if you'll read that for us, please.
Consider approval of the annexation scheduling plan for the proposed annexation of approximately 220.18 acres of land located west of FM 1417 Heritage Parkway and north of Obie Groner Road, adjacent to the Sherman city limits and in the City of Sherman's extraterritorial jurisdiction, and directing the Department of Engineering Services to develop a service plan for the area to be annexed upon approval of the annexation scheduling plan.
Thank you, Linda. Rob?
Yeah, for annexation requests, an applicant is required 2 council meetings, one to set the hearing. That's what this is today. The developer for this property is requesting to annex this because they have a zoning item that is going to be coming to council on February 5th. City Council cannot hear that item unless the property is annexed. So this request to have the schedule is for that purpose. So there will be, if approved, then you will likely to see on February 5th an item to approve the annexation and also a hearing to appeal the decision from P&Z for the zoning item at that location.
Okay, Council, questions? about the proposed schedule?
I don't have any questions. We'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll receive a presentation from Development Services Director on amending Chapter 3 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Building Regulations. Rob?
All right, good afternoon. Can you go to the first slide? All right. We are ready to update staff is ready to update our Chapter 3 building regulations. Larry, Dylan, and Stephen have been working on this for about a year. But with other things going on, we finally got to it during the break and got things wrapped up. And we'd like to bring it to council on February 5th. But today we'd like to give you a primer on what we're thinking. If you can, that's not the first slide. Although you're going to want to see those slides. Going. I don't know. Yes. That's the last slide. Sorry. Like they're in reverse. That's the last slide. Keep going. I'm sorry. All right, we're gonna have to wing it a little bit here. So back in 2020, we brought to City Council an update to go from the 2009 building codes to the 2018. We're now requesting that we go up to the 2021 building codes. Larry's going to talk a little bit about what the major changes are that we're recommending for the building codes. Dylan's going to talk about fire code. And we did want to wait until most of our peer cities had adopted the 2021 codes before getting on board with the city of Sherman. So that's one of the big focuses that we want to do. Larry, do you want to talk about the main items that you had?
Mr. Mayor and the council, what was pertaining to last time we went three cycles, it was not very well. Didn't work very well for us. So what we're proposing this time is January the 1st of 23. Greater part of Dallas area all went to the 2021s, and somewhere around September the 1st, the majority of the other cities, such as Allen and some of those places, they also went to the 2021s. So what we're wanting to do is to stay in step with our towns to the south of us and adopt the 2021 ICC codes. And as of September the 1st this year, the state has adopted the 2023 NEC, the electrical codes. And actually, by the way I understand the law is that when they adopt those codes, after speaking with the state, that we also need to be enforcing those codes of the 2023. So we're also wanting to go ahead and adopt the 2023 NEC as well. So that's what we're wanting to do with the codes. And to addition to these codes, our community development meetings and stuff, we've been dealing with some of the properties we have in the city of Sherman, some of the dilapidated properties, and we need to add the property maintenance code to this as well, if possible. That gives us a tool and gives us the ability to kind of help bring some of these properties in the city of Sherman up to where they should be for these people to live in these areas that we've been finding throughout the city, which Rob's going to speak on some of that here just shortly. And as far as the ordinances goes, we got a few things here. I've got 2-3 things on the ordinance side that I was wanting to bring up, and one of them is one that we had discussed early in 2023. We had a meeting about residents having to test their backflow devices, and we've been asked to kind of work on that a little bit. And so what I was proposing here is the RPZs by the state. You know, we need to have those annually tested, and that's for high hazard applications. As far as the top one up here, that's what most you're going to find on most backflow devices. And instead of annually testing those, I was recommending go 5 years on those. That way the residents don't have to go and try to annually have someone coming in and test their backflow devices. And I felt like that would be a good thing to do there for the residents to help give them a little break on that as well, because the state TCEQ is basically more interested in the high hazard, and they're interested in all of it, but the RPZs does have to be annually tested by the state. So that was one of the changes that we was wanting to put in the ordinance. And another is the second one there is the form board surveys. We're already requiring form board surveys for all commercial properties in the city of Sherman. And that way it just makes sure the buildings are in a proper place before they start construction. And most of the residential housing is already in the process. Some of them sends us form boards and some doesn't. And as busy as we've been here lately, we're wanting to also on all residents, new residential construction, request a form board survey for those as well. And that would be almost like giving us another inspector, because all the string lines we have to go out and do on a daily basis. I mean, if we cut that out, that just is almost like giving us another employee to help do these inspections. So that's another request that we was asking for on that part of it. And now this one we spoke about before is we're having a lot of issues.
What exactly is a form board?
Form board survey is what they do is they locate the property lines, and then we have them put strings up on those property lines. And then our inspectors has to go out and measure to make sure that they meet the setbacks required by the city. Okay. And they call them form boards, but sometimes they use pins instead of forms. They don't necessarily have to have the forms in place. They use pins. And all we want to do is make sure that the buildings are properly located on the property.
But a form board survey is done by a surveyor that we just review a piece of paper, where a string line inspection, same thing, but we have an inspector go out and actually review it on site. So it saves us a lot of time from having to go out and travel to go to the site, as opposed to just getting a copy from a surveyor of where they're putting the building.
And if those fail, then that means we have to go back again and until they get things situated with the form board. Actually, I take some of those myself, and I do those when everybody's kind of backed up, and I can go through those, make sure the setbacks are met. It's just making sure the building's in the proper location. It just eliminates some steps for our inspectors and gives us more time to do the other inspections instead of have to run all over town doing these string lines. That's the purpose of it. That's the reason we was requesting that. And the shear wall plans, we've been having some issues with shear walls, and there's a lot of folks out in the city that doesn't really understand the shear wall aspect of the buildings and the reason that they're in place. So, a lot of these builders are already giving us engineered shear wall plans. And so we're requesting that we could require shear wall plans on all residential construction. That way our inspectors can go out, and there's 16 different methods these people have to choose from to meet the shear wall recommendations. So, if we had that in place, there wouldn't be any issues. We wouldn't have to keep fighting that battle over and over again. So that's another request that we was asking for is get this engineered shear wall plan. Just require that with each set of plans that comes through. And then the other one, the changes, and this is something that an architect is allowed to. Right now, I've been dealing with the state of Texas talking about this item, and I've been back and forth with them. And an architect is allowed to draw a building up to the size of 12,000 square feet without a license. I mean, you don't have to be a licensed architect to draw anything over 12,000 square feet. And in a 5,000 square foot building requires an engineer. We require engineering on a 5,000 square foot building. So my proposal, and after talking with the state, they said some cities actually require all architects to be licensed to draw these buildings, but that's not what we're asking for. What we're asking for is to bring the architect 12,000 square feet down to the 5,000 to meet what we require from the engineers. And if we can do that, that puts them on the same plane. If you get to over 5,000 square feet, then we require you to be licensed to draw that building. And the same thing with the engineers. You know, the engineer does all the engineering on the MEPs and that sort of thing, and the structural when we get up to the 5,000 mark. So that's the reason I proposed the 5,000 is to bring it down to what the engineers are. And I feel like that'd be we'd be a lot better off. That way we got licensed people actually on these larger buildings when we get to that point.
And this will apply for new building as well as
This is for all, yes, sir.
all new.
New buildings, and now if it's a big remodel like some of these large buildings, you know, it require them to be licensed on that as well. It's not trying to cut out everybody and make say they all got to be licensed. It's just once you get over that 5,000 square feet, that's a pretty good sized building.
Yeah.
And I feel like the structural and all that entails, that I feel like they need to be licensed once they pass that 5,000 square feet.
Gotcha.
So that's all I have today for pros and of course let y'all go over all that and see what y'all think about that. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Larry.
Mayor, Council, appreciate you letting us highlight these changes. So just a brief overview. Here's some surrounding agencies that recently went to the 2021 International Fire Code, with Grayson County being the most recent. The proposed amendments that we've made in this proposal, it's all just to clarify questions that we receive on a daily basis with a large amount of development. Constant phone calls to the office asking, do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? So a lot of the fire codes, they state under provisions where required by the fire code official or determined by the AHJ. So everything that we've added into the proposed amendments are things that we already enforce. So it's just setting a written standard. That way they can look at it and know where it's asking that question. So we also made we removed some prior amendments to the 2018 International Fire Code. We had a lot of amendments in our ordinances with the adopted 2018 Fire Code that were equal to the 2021 Fire Code. So we just removed those amendments out of there. So I'm good for the next slide. Okay, so starting off, we added in the requirement for a single horn strobe to be provided on the exterior of a building that activates when a kitchen hood suppression activates. Most fast food restaurants under a certain size don't require a fire alarm or sprinkler system, but if they fry foods, they are required to have a kitchen hood suppression system. With that, if that system activates, no one's notified. So this just puts a exterior horn strobe. If the system activates, it'll let the citizens, along with someone may call our office. That way we can make sure they follow the right provisions to reset that, and they can't reset it without doing it. So requirement for new and existing buildings that have a fire sprinkler rouser, standpipe system, or a fire alarm control panel to provide a Knox key box that contains keys for access. We've required that for many years. That's just to make access to that and keep from us on a false activation, tearing someone's door up. So a lot of business owners like to put the key in there so we don't tear. There's a lot of false activations of fire alarm control panels, especially when the weather like it is now. So we added the method for measuring the hose delay. The hose delay should be measured from the center line of the fire lane along with an unobstructed level path measuring 10 feet in width. This is just to ensure that we have access rooms between buildings to set up ladders for rescues or move hose throughout the fire areas. Requirement for fire department connection to be located no more than 100 foot from the nearest hydrant. This just follows our current SOPs and the way we operate at a fire. It allows us to lay a 50-foot section from our fire truck to the hydrant, and then 100 foot from our fire truck to the FDC. Oh, sorry about that. It just makes for smooth operations and quick way for us to put out the fires. A requirement for fire department connection to be a 2.5-inch threaded fitting design. Again, this is just our standard procedure hose thread that we use. So we added requirement for fire department connections to be equipped with locking Knox caps that operate with the authority having jurisdiction to Knox key. A lot of your FDCs currently, straight from the manufacturer, just have a plate on them that can be broken. So people can put stuff in them, they can vandalize them. This allows only the fire department to have access to those. So we just keep them clean and free from debris. And then the last one was the requirement for exterior access door directly into the sprinkler control room. This would be just the riser room exterior door going in. That way our firemen don't have to make access into the fire areas to operate valves on the riser or fire alarm control panel. So that's it on the amendments we had. Like I said, we already enforced all these. They just weren't written down as a standard. Most developers had to call, and then we give them what we required. So, question?
Thank you.
I have a question. I have a question. So, in an existing building, like let's say, I'm gonna take it like the Herald Democrat.
Okay.
Say the Herald Democrat does not have a sprinkle control room. Are you guys gonna require to put one in if it gets remodeled?
If it gets remodeled over a certain extent, so the fire code is by a percentage of that remodel.
Mhm.
So depending on the square footage and the amount of money they spend to remodel it,
Okay.
there could be the requirement to come up to code if a sprinkler system is required in that square footage.
Yeah, because eventually what's gonna happen is, let's say an owner is wanna rebuild a building, they're gonna do it by phases.
Yep.
And then then the money's gonna be just enough so not to have
So the code states a certain amount at one time or a certain amount over a certain amount of time combined in a whole. So it tries to keep people from making the avenues to slip under the rug. So kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sure.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You think?
The last thing we'd like to talk about in our proposed changes to the chapter 3 is regarding can you go to the next slide? A residential rental property regulation. As part of our suggestion and a recommendation to adopt the property maintenance code, this would be another step to allow for staff to have some more enforcement power on some of these problem properties that we've been dealing with. This proposed new section would regulate residential rental properties from a single family home to a larger apartment complex. The purpose of it would be to improve the living conditions for all people living in the city of Sherman, especially rental tenants. And the new regulations would require that rental license would be required for any residential property in the city that's being leased to another. It essentially puts Chip Matthews said this today in a meeting. It puts all of the rental properties on a level playing field, and so that's one benefit of it, of this proposed inclusion to Chapter 3. Next slide. As you are all well aware, the staff has been and the Community Improvement Task Force has been actively targeting sites that are common problems in the city of Sherman. And we've inspected these bulleted apartments and locations as part of that initiative. And I know you saw some of the pictures when we were getting this, but the viewer discretion is advised. I wanted to show you some photos of the type of living conditions that we've seen as we've gone through inspections, especially Larry. Larry goes into every single room and doesn't hesitate, but when there's a certain smell, I just step back, and I don't do that. But Dylan and Steven and Larry go right in and look at everything. So go to the next slide. This is one of the apartment complex was used for permanent residence that in the city of Sherman. I won't say where it is, but there are essentially feces all over the ground, and this is the condition that we went in to do a CO inspection. Next slide. This is another one where the sink was backed up with feces and the electrical panel was essentially open, and all that wiring was an extreme fire hazard that was just sitting there, just like that when we did our inspection. Next. On the left was someone's active residence. They were living in this place, and there was, again, feces all over the ground. In that apartment complex. On the right, bottom right, there was a drain that was just draining into a bucket, and that was the condition of that apartment complex, that apartment unit. Keep going. The one on the left is a faucet that wasn't repaired. It didn't work, and it was constantly running. And a rat, we would see a lot of vermin just there in the apartment. So. This was a big problem. You can't watch it. You can't see it, can you? Not looking at it. I think might be one more slide. Yeah, on the left, there's lots of smoke detectors that were just not operating, been removed. On the right is one of the attics of one of the properties had hot water tanks, but 2 old hot water tanks that were replaced without permits and were never removed from the attic. They just thought that was okay. So that's what we see when we go up into the attic is these hot water tanks that are still out there. Larry, anything to add to any of those pictures on those inspections?
What's sad is these apartments are actually, even bullets in the laboratories are actually people who live there. That's the reason we've been pushing for this property maintenance, trying to get it. Used to, people would call us and say, they're not fixing my air conditioning, or got sewer in my restaurant, up in the floor. Used to, we had to say, well, that's between the corner of the property, but now if we get this in place, we'll step in, it's no longer pass the buck to step in and try to resolve a lot of this problem, a lot of these issues we can resolve ourselves.
I would add too that we've had owners of some of these in particular admit that they came here because we didn't have anything to prevent this. Their way that they conduct business is this way, and so they come here because we didn't have this. So,
and that's what we define as your typical slumlord, getting all the benefits of rent, but not putting people in quality housing.
Absolutely.
I'd like to talk about this property in a little bit more specific. This was a CO inspection that we went and did, and when Dylan, Steven, and I were waiting outside of the unit, we could smell gas as the front door of the unit was opened. At least what it smelled like gas. In fact, it wasn't gas; it was carbon monoxide, and there was a mom with a baby that was living in that unit. One of the furnaces that was installed in there was something that, what is it called, Larry? What type of furnace is it?
This is a wall furnace. Well, it wasn't this furnace, another wall furnace. I have a picture of it, but when you walk in, you can smell allies. Allies you can smell. You can't smell carbon monoxide, but the allies are present. Carbon monoxide is also. It'll burn your eyes and burns your nostrils when you walk in. And I've made a comment to these people. And this gentleman here, I have to admit, he come in the very next day and had that furnace taken out and corrected the issue, corrected the problem. I can give you pay on back for that, but like there's other heaters in the same place, it doesn't have any grates. These are illegal as well because they throw off a lot of carbon monoxide as well. These base heaters. That's just what we deal with on a daily basis.
But to be over dramatic, I think they might have saved that lady's life and definitely the baby's life that day by having them turn off that furnace, because it was coming out of the front door where you could smell it 10 feet outside of the unit.
That other on the left there, that's they went out there and took some tube for basically to raise the electrical wiring up in the air a little bit. Let it get under it, so what all that's.
So next slide. So what we're asking for this residential rental property is to have a new section within Chapter 3 that would give staff the ability to start licensing these rental properties so that we can do annual inspections if needed. Not required to do an inspection every year, but if we needed to, we could, and that we would have to give the property owners 30 days notice before we would do those inspections. Our focus would be on the problem projects first, and we've hired Caleb. One of the reasons we've hired Caleb Green in our department is to help us with that. I'm not going to say that in next budget cycle we won't ask for some more people if we keep needing to do more of this, but we'd like to get that program started. Next slide. We looked at what other cities are doing and their rental fees, and just ballpark, Frisco is about $5 per unit is what they charge, and then other cities charge depending on different things. But around Frisco to Prosper is we would kind of look at charging or recommended charging the annual license fee. and it would renew every January 1st, so that we don't always have to keep up with it. But they would be required to renew every new year. Next slide. And so that's just to wrap up the residential rental license. We'd also recommend, as part of Chapter 3, to update the building permit fees. We currently charge 30 cents per square foot for residential, multifamily, commercial, and we're recommending to increase that to 50 cents per square foot. We also put comparisons of what other cities are charging now, and even with that increase from 30 cents to 50 cents, it would still be less than our other peer cities. And increase our base permit fee from 50 to 75. And again, that increase from $50 to $75 is still less than what many of our peer cities are currently charging. So with that, I know you'll see some more on February 5th, hopefully, but wanted to get some feedback from you all. Are we going in the right direction? Do you want to see this in our recommendations for building Chapter 3 updates?
Why aren't we increasing the fees more versus our sister?
Which fees?
Well, the last ones we just saw there, the
building permit
Yeah,
fees.
Well, keep in mind, we also have impact fees. So we're already hitting an owner with permit fees and then impact fees as well. So keep that in mind.
that's fine.
We generally
You're not building anything.
We try to base the fees on how much realistically it's costing for our inspectors and our building official to do the work. We're not looking to earn revenue for the city. Actually, we probably aren't allowed to. We're just covering our costs to do inspections and to do the plan review, so we can break even on that.
Why are the sister cities up here then higher? Why are the comps? Why would they be higher?
I can't answer that question.
Asking.
Yep.
But we are going up some. Okay. Are we approving anything or?
No, this was a teaser for bringing back a full Chapter 3 ordinance update at the first meeting in February, and didn't want the first time you saw all of this to be then. So I think all of these are good for the city, necessary as we continue to put more focus on quality neighborhoods and cleaning up the city.
All for it.
And also that, this will help with some of these properties that the guys have been going to. I mean, they're horrible. I mean, like Terrence was mentioning, these are paying, the tenants are paying $800 to $2,000 to $1,500 a month, and the conditions of living are horrible. So I went to one of the inspections, and like he was saying, Larry was the only man amongst all of us. Go in there, for real.
Yeah, I think we all agree our kiddos in Sherman deserve better than that.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments before we move on, council? All right. This time we'll receive a quarterly progress report from the Sherman Economic Development Corporation. Good evening, Ken.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, illustrious esteemed council members. Thank you for allowing me to come over and give our quarterly report. This thing's going to be loud and make noise. Always appreciate the opportunity to come over and update the citizens and the council on what we have done in the last quarter. So in your agenda packets, I believe you have the full report. That's an expanded version. I'm not going to do that to you tonight. I'm going to hit the highlights and let you guys get on down to your meeting. In simple terms, as briefly as possible, SEDCO, the mission of SEDCO is to grow and diversify, help the private sector grow and diversify the economy of Sherman and the surrounding area through the addition of new jobs and investment of primary employers. Some of the top accomplishments that we feel would be good to be conveyed to the council for this past quarter. SEDCO and the city of Sherman were awarded the Community Economic Development Award. It's called CEDA. That's the top award given in the state by the Texas Economic Development Council. kind of our state parent, so kind of like TML for economic development agencies. This is the second year in a row that Sherman has won that, and very few towns have ever won that 2 years in a row. So we were excited. We got that. The community won that award based upon the Global Wafers investments. SEDCO teamed up with Workforce Solutions to apply to the Texas Workforce Commission for a high demand jobs training program to put a electronic engineering technology lab in our Sherman High School. We provide, it's a $300,000 grant. The local entities have to provide $150,000. Then Texas Workforce Commission will provide another $150,000. We were awarded that $150,000 or that $300,000 grant. So that is going into the high school over this next year. We were awarded our region was awarded the Texhoma Semiconductor Tech Hub. A lot of y'all have heard of that. If you haven't, basically the Department of Commerce put out a request for proposals for regions to be designated as tech hubs. Those tech hubs are broken into divisions. Semiconductors, the one which we were awarded, defense, bio, and something else. There's like 4 or 5 big broad areas. Anyway, SMU is the administrative agent, kind of the lead writing agent for us, but it includes like 41 communities, counties. It's a big. Southern Oklahoma, we're the only tech hub to be a two-state tech hub located in 2 states, Oklahoma and Texas. We're the only tech hub to have a tribal entity. The Choctaw Nation is one of our partners. And this is a big deal. There were 400 regions that submitted to apply for this designation. Austin, Houston, San Antonio, most of the big regions, but we were the only one in Texas to be awarded. So when I say we, I mean from Dallas to Durant, basically, is how big this covers. So we're excited. That comes with a planning grant of, I think, $500,000 that the consortium uses to write for the big grant. So of the 31 out of 400 that were awarded, about 10 or 11 will get the next big chunk of grant dollars, and that's the minimum $50 million and the maximum $75 million. And that's to do all the projects that the consortium says in their application for the 50 to 75 million. One of them, well, I can't talk a lot about it because it's still kind of under control, but it's a lot of equipment going into colleges, community colleges, school districts, not school districts, community colleges, universities, workforce training for our semiconductor industry. So a lot of it's just an all-encompassing type of grant. We're super excited. That has to be in by the end of February. Then we should know, hopefully by summer, if we're one of the 10 that received the big funding. Plans for the next quarter, we're going to continue our business retention and expansion and our new business attraction efforts. That's kind of our bread and butter. We participated, the second Texhoma Tech Hub workshop was held at Austin College on January the 8th. We kind of helped host that with AC. The SEDCO team hosted the Sherman Women-Owned Minority-Owned Business annual event. It was our first annual event at the ballroom, and that was on January the 11th. It provided a networking, a vendor marketplace, and a workshop tailored to empower and elevate minority-owned and women-owned businesses in Sherman. That was a big success. I was real proud of our team for how they planned and orchestrated that. We had a lot of compliments on that. Myself, Ashton, and Shannon will attend the TEDC Winter Conference in San Antonio in February. During that training, Ashton and Shannon are going to complete their Future Leaders Training part of the TEDC curriculum. We are going to host a plant manager and safety leader forum at a particular Sherman industry. We haven't nailed that down yet, but those things are usually pretty well attended. We're going to contact each company with a job that has a job listing on our ShermanTXJobs.com part of our website. Our staff reaches out and just make sure that job site is current, because we have a lot of people, not just in Sherman and Grayson County, but from all over the country, as we push that out on our social media pages. So we really do try to make sure that's current and up to date. Something new that's sort of on our radar, the staff is planning for a recruitment trip to Semicon West trade show in San Francisco this July. That's a new one for us. We are looking at, Ashton, is it Encore?
Team Texas Encore and the governor's office.
Okay, so right. So no commitments yet, but there's definitely some interest, especially with all the semiconductor stuff that's came to Texas, as well as the ladies have reached out to other EDCs and said, hey, and you've had a few come back and say, so that could be something that's new and exciting for us to get in front of the semiconductor industry in San Francisco. Our board met October 10th, November the 14th, and December the 12th of last quarter. 100% of the meetings had quorums present. We did have one member miss one meeting. Now that puts it less than the 75% threshold that the city requires on these. But if you miss 1 out of 3 meetings, that's where that number is going to go, 66%. So anyway, that member does not have a habitual problem missing meetings. He just missed one. Let's see, some other information we'd like to share. We're currently working on 7 active projects with about $1.6 billion in CapEx if they were all to come to fruition, and about just under 1,400 jobs representing those 7 projects. We have completed 6 site visits and prospect calls with companies interested in relocating or expanding their operations to Sherman. During the last quarter, our board approved resolutions 2325. That was authorizing and approving an amended and restated real estate sales contract. That was on the 5 acres that we're selling to HPI for the Tokyo Electron. Basically, we were supposed to close that before the end of the year, and Tokyo Electron is working on another, their regional headquarters in another part of the state, and they needed some more time to do due diligence, so they asked for a 60-day extension. Resolution 2326. This is basically this 10 acres is between Tyson and Kaiser Aluminum. We picked this up a few years ago, and we're selling it for around $1 million, all 10 acres. But we divided that lot into 2 5-acre lots, one going to Tokyo Electron, one going to Persis. Persis is ready to move forward. They're jumping. They've hired they're hiring their general contractor and surveyor, so they're moving forward as well. Let's see, 2327. This was a fun resolution for us. It was presented to the Douglas family of Douglas Distributing as a plaque as a token of our appreciation and gratitude for their immeasurable contributions to Sherman, Texas, and our economy. Also approved resolution 2320, which was a water line easement. Basically, we conveyed 0.041 acres to the city for that easement. And then the board put in place a supplemental compensation agreement for Shannon Blake, our vice president of business development. And then we amended our travel and expense policy. I forgot to add a section that was kind of important. If you're paid an auto allowance, which I'm the only employee at SACO that is, the city's policy basically says the first 150 miles is included in that allowance, but if you go beyond that 150 miles, then you're compensated the mileage rate that the IRS allows. I'd left that out, and Mary was gracious enough to point that out to me, and now we amended it, so we're now looking more line up with the cities. Hosted a fall leadership with 30 plant managers and community leaders in attendance. Let's see, Coherent, Texas Instruments, Rayburn Electric, Progress Rail all participated in Manufacturing Day. We had, I don't know how many students went through that, but dozens of, I think over 100 students participated in that. Basically, it's just to get the kids like 8th grade, I think it's 8th graders, get them into the manufacturing facilities, let them see and get exposed to that, hopefully whet their appetite to maybe pursue that after school. We sponsored 8 ads on Facebook, just on Facebook alone, highlighting Sherman Industries, available jobs, Sherman women-owned, minority-owned businesses, and the Sherman community, including downtown. Total reach was 54,740. We had just under 2,000 clicks or links, clinks. Post engagement, we had 2,125 in through plays, which Ashton, explain to me what a through play is. They watched the video. 40,000 people watched the videos. So we're actually jumping out and touching people, and that's kind of exciting. So hopefully converting some of those people to become.
Did you say 40,000?
40,000. So, yep, hopefully attracting new citizens and taxpayers to the city of Sherman. Any questions that I can answer?
All right. You guys have been busy. Appreciate your great work over there. Ashton, thank you for coming. Appreciate how hard y'all are working over there. My goodness. All right. The next item, approve investment report for quarter ended December 31st, 2023. Mary.
Good evening. Typically, this is on consent, if this is not ringing a bell for you. This was our only consent item, so we're going to talk about it briefly. The investment reports were provided to the investment committee before the meeting. Book value in the operating portfolio, $32.4 million. In our debt proceeds, we have about $83.6 million. The operating weighted average yield is 3.68% and 5.26% on the debt proceeds. And staff recommends approval.
Okay. Council questions for Mary?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mary, for that update. All right. We are to council comments. Say, Councilman Holland.
Nothing on this end.
I'd like to say congrats again to Tashina for her recognition. And also, I think this is the last night for a little bit, but keep your pets inside. And if you have neighbors that have pets outside, report them to our fine, outstanding officers.
Let us know, Chief. Chief will be on them. There you go.
I just want to say good job to Rob and his staff for the building regulation report that they gave us. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right. Just a few announcements tonight. Tickets are now on sale for the annual Parks and Rec Father-Daughter Dance. The event will be held at the Municipal Ballroom February 9th and 10th. Tickets are $15 per person. Y'all be sure and check that out. Always a fun event. The Sherman Chamber of Commerce will hold their annual awards luncheon on Friday, January 26th at 11 a.m. The event to celebrate our local community leaders will be held at Austin College. Finally, tonight, Habitat for Humanity will host their annual Habitators fundraiser on January 27th at the Sherman Municipal Ballroom. Get your tickets soon to support a great cause. All right, the City Council will now hold a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.074, to appoint members to the Greater Texoma Utility Authority Board of Directors, and Section 551.087 to discuss Sherman Junction development. So at 6:21, we'll dismiss into executive session. Thank you.